Good morning, good morning. How's it going, guys? Still wearing my hat from October festivities. That was a good celebration yesterday with the family. Oktoberfest out in Kitchener. I hear it's the largest Oktoberfest celebration outside of Germany. And it was a fun one. It was fun. Eating pigtails. You guys ever tried that before? Pigtails? That's pretty good. Pretty good stuff. Pigtails. Like it. Surrounded by fat. Ooh, gosh. So good. Lots of fat on there. Cinnamon. Boy, oh boy. Anyways, felt like putting the hat on this morning for you guys as we take a look at the markets and take a look at what's going on. Big moves. Big moves, especially in the euro. Very happy about that. You could see we got some big moves in the euro to the downside. We had several short signals on the euro. I gave them all to members, all the short signals. They're all there. And they've been doing quite well, those short signals. So, and I just added them to my position. I am short, and I just added to my position on the euro. And we're going to wait for it to slowly melt to the downside, because that is what I believe is in the process of taking place. Okay, so we have our stops moved, so we will be protecting our capital, but I suspect that over time price is going to be melting. Okay. If we look at the pound US dollar, something very significant took place or is taking place right now as we speak. Right here on the pound US dollar, there's an area that we've been watching right here, right? And it leads back all the way to here. This area we've been watching for its removal. This area of demand. This is institutional demand that was keeping price up. All right. And so we wanted to, we were watching for signs of selling. We were watching for signs that the banks wanted to push price downwards. And we're getting that sign right now. Okay. Because the banks are pushing through their previous buying zone. So this is a sign that over time price is going to be dropping. Okay. Still too early to tell because we want to wait and see how it breaks through this zone and make sure 100% that they're actually breaking through, because sometimes they just penetrate through the zone and they rip price back into the opposite direction. So we want to see how this develops, this area here, throughout the day. Okay, but I'm going to definitely be watching this throughout the day. Okay, you guys should be watching this as well, because if you want to understand why the market's doing what it's doing, well, you have to know what to watch for. And also, you know, look at that. Okay. It's getting quite heavy up here, isn't it? Look at the RSI. What is it suggesting? Okay. This last push up here, last push up, look at the RSI is 60. And now we're starting to get a push down. So it typically happens on a rally up if we get 60 with basing and dropping, typically surpass the previous lows, which is here. So that would bring out the expectation for price to drop here. Okay. So if that happens, then euro US dollar drops as well. And yeah, everything's pretty much in line with this drop. Now, let's see if they updated the CFTC data yet, and it does not look like it. No updates on the CFTC data. And that's okay. I mean, we've got institutional price action taking place right now. We can see significant demand being removed. That means selling is coming into play. So what does that tell you? That tells you that profit taking on long positions, right? Because we've been watching what's been taking place on here for quite some time. All right. September 23rd is the last time we had data. So we're missing the 30th and the 7th. 2 weeks of data. Okay. But leading up to this, big increase in long positions. But the last couple of weeks, we saw a decline. And, you know, we start to see price spilling over. And this is where we had our short signals from. Okay. Our first short signal was up here. Right up here. Based on the 1 hour time frame. Okay. Our first short signal was here. Aiming for down here. Okay. And then we had another one based on the 4 hour time frame up here. And then one here. And then the last one was here. Okay. So all these short signals, one was here, one was here, one was here, one was here. Short signals, okay? So we'll see how that plays out. It's contacting some lower time frame demand right now. If we switch over to the 1 hour time frame and I zoom all the way back here, right here, some institutional demand, okay? Took out an important zone here. That's why we're monitoring this one. Now, of course, you can see that price already came into this institutional demand zone and rallied. So technically, we'd suspect there not to be that much in terms of demand in this area. Okay, so when we zoom forward, we can see that we are just above that area. Okay, we contacted this area once here, and now we're contacting that area again. Okay. So yeah, we're getting a slight push to the upside, but you know, how this is going to play out from here, who knows? Okay, you can't know every single move that's going to happen. We do know that on the 4 hour time frame and daily time frame, we have selling that's the most dominant force that's coming into this market. So over the short term and very short term, we have selling. The banks are selling. Okay. So that's what I can see with that. Now, let's take a look at Bitcoin. I had a lot of alarms going off on Bitcoin. I see we had a major spike to the downside here. Huge spike to the downside. Now, I don't know if that's just a glitch in the data, because if I look at the micro Bitcoin futures, I don't see any of that. Okay, I don't see a big spike like I do here on BTC US dollar. Okay, nothing. So what's going on here? I couldn't tell you. I don't know if that was a legit spike or if that's just an error. Was anybody here on Friday to see that spike actually take place? I'd like to know if you guys were here to actually see it take place. Bottom line, if you take a look at the weekly time frame, we still have institutional buying here. Okay. And if you pay attention to where price is contacting right here, it's all in this buying area. Trump tweeted something about Bitcoin, and you saw that drop take place. Trump tariffs, Trump tweeted. Yeah, but Trump has tweeted tariffs before. We never saw anything like this before. Something was unusual here. So anyways, when we look at the daily time frame, there was a couple of spots that we were watching. Bitcoin price was manipulated by taking advantage of exchanges, low liquidity. We were watching a couple spots here. one above, one down here, watching for a signal. With this major drop like this, it didn't produce anything, but I'll show you one thing. Look where it did respond from. Look at this small little, buying zone that we had located between 109 and 110. Pretty crazy. Look at the response to it, okay? And we're getting a double test right now. The first test was at 40. Now we're getting just about, just a bit above 40. This is on the daily time frame. So we could switch to the 1 hour and take a look at what's going on here. Look at that. Look at that here. I was looking at this area here for potential long signal, but we didn't get the formation that we wanted. So now we're getting a second test here. So 4 hour time frame would be ideal to watch. So the first test of this area, take a look here. Look how weak RSI was, okay? Now we're getting the second test of this area, but again, weak RSI. If there's going to be a long signal here, we'd want to watch for price to come up, test again around the 40, produce some kind of a bullish engulf, and then that would be your long signal, okay? So we still need momentum to continue shifting here. This is indicating to us that there's buying taking place here, and we're not surprised because it's happening at a institutional buying zone, all right? But whether they're going to continue buying from these lows to push price higher is the question, okay? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to watch this area here for potential long signal because this is institutional demand down here. Okay, we had price in a range. Held by supply. We had this demand, which was really important. This institutional demand zone that was created here was pretty important. We talked about this with members, and we talked about how the dynamic shifted for that demand zone when this supply area came into play. So what typically would have been a zone that we would have been watching for long became a zone that we just were watching. That got taken out. Institutional supply came into play here. And then this institutional supply got taken out by this institutional demand zone, which is now in play. So we could definitely see momentum shift here by the institutions. And start to see buying taking place, which would cause price to start to rally. Because remember, at the end of the day, we have a big institutional buying zone located right here. So every time you have a test of these areas, this is buying by the banks, okay? All right, this is a good sign of buying from the institution. So they're buying here, they're buying here, they're buying here. We're watching for proof of that on the lower time frame, that they're going to continue buying from these lows. And if we get that, then there's the long signal. We'll enter into a long position. And we're targeting higher. I gave those targets out to members already. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. We'll continue to monitor that. I'm wondering here if you guys are paying attention to what's happening here on the Dow Jones. You see the demand zone that we got in play here on the weekly time frame. Okay, if you look at the S&P, we have demand just a little bit lower. Okay, meaning this could drop even more. NASDAQ, same thing. We have demand even lower. I'd love to see a pullback to these demand zones here, because this is an area that I would be watching for price to start heading back upwards from. Okay, good area. All right. So we've been watching the weekly chart for quite some time, watching as the banks come in with institutional buying. All right. And when you follow what we follow and you use certain concepts and principles like the sequence, and you apply the sequence to the chart, the next logical, most likely area of buying that will take place on the charts is going to be based on the weekly time frame. And so this is why we're watching this weekly demand zone so closely, because that is a very crucial area for continued move to the upside. Okay, as you could see, we've had daily area of demand created and price rallied, but was it sustained? It wasn't sustained. You see how price came through and dropped through this area? Okay, why wasn't it sustained? Because the daily time frame is not the one that we should be focusing our attention on. It's not the one that's going to sustain price. The most likely chart that's going to sustain price from here on in is the weekly time frame, the weekly chart, okay? And there's a process of knowing what time frame you got to be focusing your attention on. And if you don't know, you're going to find yourself in trouble, especially if you know how to draw institutional supply and demand zones, because you won't know, should I be taking a zone off of a daily time frame, a 4-hour time frame? You won't know, right? So that's happening on the NASDAQ, and look at the S&P 500 right here, okay? Institutional demand here. We need price to drop towards here, and then I'd be interested. Okay, previously we had long signal buying down here. This is what we had to buy here and to sell here. Okay, now we didn't get the drop. We were expecting for price to come down here for that long signal. We didn't get the drop, but look, our target got hit, and now the sell-off. Okay, so another thing, you know, when you know what to watch for, you know what time frame is in play, then you know how to, well, using our target location system, we located this target here at 6,766. And this is a target that we gave out to members. We did it in our session. I showed everybody how we are applying the target locating system. So basically, we're looking at institutional buying that took place in the past, and we're looking at how high they drove price up from their institutional buying zones, and we're looking at new buying zones that come into the market, and then we forecast if this is how much they were willing to buy the market last time and push the market up last time, they're likely going to be pushing up the market that same amount this time, okay? Because like I've said before, the international banking cartel control the markets, okay? If you think the markets are random and they just go up based on random things, then you're not going to understand fully how the market works. If you think the market goes up because banks, hedge funds, we, me, you, everybody in the world is buying and selling, and it's just random, you know, the hedge funds just buy randomly and the banks just buy randomly, and they just are there to, you know, take the other side of our trade. If you're thinking along those lines, then you're not going to see the wonderful patterns that they're creating. You're not going to be able to determine where price is going to go because, you know, if it's random, how would you be able to locate a target? If the stock market only goes up as high as economic events and, you know, whatever other reasons the market would go up for, then who would be able to determine how high the market's going to go up? Nobody has a crystal ball to see what the news is going to be, what the economy is going to be, what Trump is going to say, right? So how would you be able to determine an upside target? Well, you know, there are ways to determine an upside target, because when you understand that the banks control the markets, then you understand you can select upside targets. So here's our target, okay? And we've had this target for a long time. So our long-term target has been reached. So what does that mean when a long-term target has been reached? Well, what do you think it meant here when a long-term target was reached? Look at the drop. Do you know why the drop? because it's profit taking here. So this is the institutions taking profits on their long positions. This is what happens. They accumulate positions here, they accumulate positions here, and they take profits here, okay? And they cause price to go down. Then they reaccumulate at institutional buying zones, okay? And then they repeat the same process again. Then they come in with profit taking. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to drop down like this, okay? I've already shown you the location where I believe price is going to drop from. I don't think the drop is going to be as great as we had previously seen in 2024. Okay, I don't think it's going to be that big of a drop, but profit taking nonetheless. All right, so you could read the news and they're going to explain to you all sorts of explanations why the market is dropping. But the reality is that they're profit taking. The big banks are profit taking on their long positions. So we're going to watch for them to take profits. We're going to watch for a price to drop. And when they drop them into institutional buying zones that they just recently created, then we're going to look to enter into a position as well. Okay. So be mindful of that. Be watchful of that, because I believe there's going to be a lot of good opportunities. Once the market comes down into institutional buying zones and it starts to rally back up, we're going to see some big buying in the markets. So, let's look at the Magnificent Seven before I let you go. Here's Apple. Big significant area of supply was removed recently on the monthly time frame. And take a look at the weekly. Okay, what was I just showing you on the S&P? Big institutional buying that just recently came into play on the weekly time frame. Okay, and look what we have here. Okay, big institutional buying taking place on the weekly time frame. So, what do you think is going to happen when price drops down to that area? What's very likely going to happen? Probably a very big move. So we're going to be watching for a long signal off of there. Amazon already came into contact with weekly demand. Looks like it's going to drop for a second test. Google, we had a long signal on this one, played out really nicely. Weekly zone, a lot further down the chart, so we're either going to get a really big drop, really quick drop to the downside, or it's not going to make it down to that area and price is going to start heading up. We already got daily area of demand that's in play, but I wouldn't be holding a position off of that. I wouldn't feel comfortable basing a trade off of that. Not with the markets looking to drop even further. Sure, can it hold us? Can the markets drop and this demand hold? Sure, it's possible, but not likely. Okay, Meta, okay, coming down into weekly areas of demand. We'll be watching for buying to take place. And when they start removing key areas of supply, then we'll know that significant buying is taking place. Microsoft setting up for a long based on the weekly time frame as well. Got institutional demand down there on the weekly time frame. Nvidia fell short of hitting our buying zone, which is a little bit disappointing because we were going to be taking a long position at $160. And Tesla, we had a long signal on this one, played out to perfection, where we told you about this zone before price got even into it, and then price came down to it, and then Trump had a big public fight with Elon Musk. Everybody sold Tesla shares. I told you they were selling it right as the big banks were buying, and that's exactly what took place, because the big banks bought at 220 and they brought up to 450. How about them apples? Not too bad to double your money in a matter of a few months, eh? Not bad. Told you that story already. So, I mean, again, when you know what's taking place, then you can predict what's going to happen in the markets. When you don't know, you fall prey to the headlines and you end up being like everybody else, selling into institutional buying. All right. So those are the markets, some of the markets I'm going to be following. So be very careful with the S&P. Looks like it's going to continue dropping. Bitcoin looking for a long signal, and Euro going to be watching this one for a continued move to the downside. All right, my friends, that was it. Did you guys have a good weekend? Let's see. Bitcoin price, a whale crashed the market. IC markets chart also not spiked. Okay, interesting. I'm waiting for futures gap. At this time, going to see a lift of shutdown silver. Thanks, Kev, for guiding us in this difficult time. Yeah. Well, you know what? When you see the markets differently, you don't see it as difficult. It's not difficult. You just read the markets and you see opportunity. I look at the market and I see major opportunity. I've been waiting for quite some time for there to be a pullback in the markets, the stock market. Because once there's a pullback, then you know there's going to be buying. When you know there's going to be buying, then you can look for major buying opportunities in the market, in the index, you know, across strong sectors. So it's a wonderful time for buying. Okay, folks, good stuff. Thanks for joining me again. Appreciate it. And I'll let you go for now. I got some work that I got to do here in the office. But I'll be around continuing to keep my eyes on things, and I'll post some updates in the Telegram channel. Okay, so if you're not in the Telegram channel, make sure you get there. There's a link in the video description. All right, good stuff. See you later. You take care. We'll talk to you soon.